Okay, we got a nice little intimate group here tonight. This is good. We had about 30 people earlier in the morning session. It looks like we got about 10 people here, so I'm like a lot less nervous than I was this morning, which is good. So thank you all for being here. If you haven't popped in the chat yet where you're from, just let us all know. It's always cool to see where everyone's calling in from. My name is Betty Maya Foote, and I'm the Director of Engagement here at the International Dark Sky Association. And it is my dream job to be working full-time doing dark sky conservation work. And really my favorite part of my job is just making dark sky friends all over the world. So I'm really happy to meet you all today. And I am going to mute you if you're not muted. And we'll have a chance for questions at the end of the presentation. It should be about 40-ish minutes of presentation, and then we'll have questions, and then we'll send you all the info about joining the Advocate Network. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to start the presentation. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Brent, can you confirm you can see this? I think I muted you. You can give me a thumbs up. All right, sweet. Cool, thank you everyone for being here. This is our IDA 101 training, and we are all here because we appreciate the nighttime environment. We know its beauty, the value that it brings to all inhabitants on Earth, and we all feel the awe and inspiration of looking at the night sky and what that brings to us as people. But we're also here because we understand that it's threatened, and we want to know what we can do to help protect it. We want to join in that fight against light pollution. So thank you all for being a voice for the night that cannot otherwise speak for itself. Come in. Go next slide here. Okay. Wait, what are you guys seeing, like the full screen, or are you seeing my notes?
Yeah, it looks full screen with off to the side. We got thumbnails of the people.
Okay, I'll move that over. Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, okay. Thank you guys. But this is just a slide really to thank you all for being here. And I just want to acknowledge all of the courage that you all have for coming and kind of stepping up to the plate to tackle a pretty large and global environmental issue. And it's not always fun to look at these types of issues, and it's definitely difficult a lot of times. But if you're someone here who is on the call, you're someone with a significant amount of courage, and I really want to honor that. It's going to take all of us and more to tackle this problem. So really thank you for having the courage to step up and be a part of the solution. And now we have just a brief little welcome from Ruskin Hartley, who is our Executive Director. And I'll just play this quick little video.
Hi, I'm Ruskin Hartley, Executive Director of the International Dark Sky Association, speaking to you from Tucson, Arizona. And with a simple thank you. Thank you for joining our call today to learn more about how you can join our wonderful community of advocates in every continent in many countries around the world who are doing what they can in their communities to tackle light pollution so that more people can enjoy the benefits of a dark sky-filled sky, and also come to know more about the values of responsible lighting, how it protects wildlife, how it protects our night sky, and how it contributes to a healthy, sustainable planet. Thank you so much.
So that was Ruskin. He's our executive director, giving all of you a thanks. And I just really like when he says scar-filled sky.
Hi.
So, okay, let's get into it. Light pollution is any adverse effect of artificial light at night. And it comes in three main forms: sky glow, glare, and light trespass. And all forms of this light pollution are increasing rapidly across the globe. So this fact really blew my mind when I when I learned this for the first time. These are kind of your basic wall packs. These might be a little bit more intense than a basic home wall pack. But if somebody installed just one of these fixtures on the moon, pointed towards the Earth, you would actually be able to see just one wall pack light with a moderately powerful hobbyist telescope from Earth. So that really illustrated to me just how powerful light is. And it's something we tend to overthink, and it's very intangible, so we don't really understand how powerful it is. But in my work with dark skies and photography, I've really come to learn that light is incredibly powerful, and that it's something we really, really need to use in a way that honors that power, so we don't overuse it and unintentionally hurt others around us. So sky glow is kind of the first type of light pollution we might all be familiar with. It's that dome of light along the horizon above populated urban areas that obscures our view of the night sky. And this is caused by misdirected light refracting through our atmosphere. And it's actually really important to note that, we tend to think of lights that point straight up into the sky as possibly being the biggest culprits to light pollution and sky glow. But it's actually the lights that go out horizontally at those like shallow horizontal angles between like 70 and 100 degrees, basically, because that way there's more atmosphere for that light to scatter through, so it creates additional sky glow, whereas it doesn't have quite as much atmosphere to scatter through when it's pointed straight up in the sky. So really lighting needs to be pointed down on the ground where it's needed and not out into your neighbor's window or up to light the bottom of the International Space Station. And glare, I think we've all experienced glare here. I know I've been driving down a lonely, winding road at night, only to have an oncoming car approach me with their high beams on. It's really hard to see, and it hurts your eyes, and it makes it harder to see the road where you're going, any potential hazards or pedestrians. So this is basically what glare is. It's when light enters your eye at shallow angles, reducing visual acuity, causing pain and discomfort, and making it harder to see in those darker areas. And finally, we have light trespass. We've all probably experienced this as well. This is when light from a neighboring property or home trespasses onto your property, or most likely into your bedroom window at night. And we can think of light trespass as a private property rights issue. And as I said before, all types of this light pollution is increasing rapidly. And this is light pollution as seen from space in a projection into kind of a couple of years from now. And it's really not hard to imagine a future where there are no remaining natural dark areas, at least in the US. And one of our advocates, who's also a board member, recently released a paper in September of 2021 showing that light pollution may have increased globally 270% over the last 25 years and up to 400% in some regions. And if you want to know if you're in an area with dark skies or not, there's a really easy way for you to measure your own skies. Globe at Night is a free web application that you can use to go outside and look up at a constellation and figure out where your sky fits into the broader scheme of things. So they'll show you a photo of a constellation, a couple different photos of it, and you select which one best matches the view of the night sky above your head. And they've done a ton of studies on this and found it to be actually very accurate. It really is a good way of predicting the quality of your night sky. And then also, if you do this and contribute to Globe at Night, your measurements are sent to an online global database of light pollution that really helps researchers and advocates around the world understand how light pollution is changing globally. So before we get into anything else, I just want to go over the main rebuttal that we get. The people are like, okay, we love the stars, right? We want to look up at the stars. We're cool with that. But what about safety? We want to feel safe in our communities. We want to have safe communities. We don't want traffic accidents. And we think light is important for that. And we're totally on board with that, right? So IDA and dark sky advocates, we need to embrace that light does make people feel safer. There have been no conclusive studies that show one way or another whether light does increase or decrease safety. But it does make people feel safer. And so it's totally okay to have a light if you need it, if you want it for safety. We just want you to do it in a way that actually enhances your safety instead of kind of making it less safe for you. And so here's kind of an example of that when we look at this photo of a typical unshielded porch light. We can see it's kind of really hard to see into the shadows. I don't know if any of you can see kind of what's back there, but I have a hard time looking back there and seeing what that is behind the fence. But when we shield that light to the camera, we can see that there was a person there the whole time. We just couldn't see them because of that glare coming into our eyes, restricting our visual abilities and making it much harder to see into the dark places. So there's like this myth that more lighting is more safe, when the reality is that better designed lighting is lighting that is more safe. Also, I've heard someone say this before and I really liked it. You know, if lighting stopped crime, then no crimes would happen during the day. And there's a lot of other consequences to light pollution, from turtles to humans and everything in between. There are many reasons we should protect the night. And I'll start with some of the environmental impacts. We probably all know this one, but turtles is a huge one. They're this charismatic creature that we all love, and light pollution is devastating to them. The hatchling turtles have historically found their way to the safety of the ocean by following the brightest point of their field of view, which is typically a moon or starlight reflected into the ocean. But nowadays, with beachside developments and just light pollution in general, turtles are turning around, walking away from the beach, which is actually the darkest place, and towards those cities, towards the developed areas, where usually they're predated on, run over by cars. There's a tragic scene in Planet Earth cities. I think it's the final episode, and it will make you cry. I was bawling because they were just showing like these cars running over turtles and them getting eaten by all these animals. And it's really sad, but we can totally help these turtles by having turtle safe and environmentally friendly lighting along these areas so that they can find their way to safety. Birds is another big one. Like moths, they are attracted to light. And not only that, over half of all bird species are nocturnal migrators. And this is because nighttime has better weather, kind of better wind patterns, less predation, cooler temperatures. And they also use the stars to navigate. So as they're flying and they encounter these brightly lit city skylines, they're completely disoriented. If they don't immediately collide with a brightly lit building, they will stay in the lit area and fly around until they drop to the ground from exhaustion, where they'll usually be eaten by a cat or a raccoon or another predator. And it's estimated that in North America alone, up to 100 million to a billion birds die per year due to collisions with buildings. And we can see that here on the image on the right. These were birds that were collected by a program called the Fatal Light Awareness Program, based out of Toronto, Canada. And they monitor high-rise buildings at very, very early times in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and they collect these bird bodies that have collided with the buildings at night. And then each year they make this great art installation that's very tragic of all the birds that they've collected that have collided with lit buildings. But a really cool partnership here we can see in the tribute lights is New York Audubon noticed that these birds were getting trapped in the light, right? There would be thousands of birds just flying around in this light, disoriented and unsure of where to go. And they worked with the city to actually turn off the lights just for a period of 10 to 15 minutes, and in that time the birds are able to disperse, go on their merry way, continue their navigation, go feed their babies. And then they turn them back on, and people from the Audubon chapters sit there and monitor and count the birds and let the people know when they need to turn them back off. And it's all done in the spirit of preventing any additional loss of life. And I think it's just a really great partnership. And this one really surprised me. Trees are even impacted by artificial light at night. Here we can see how that cone of light coming from the street lights has caused a total difference in when these trees kind of change their seasons and understand the changing time. So trees understand what season it is by how much light they're exposed to during the day. So in the winter, there's shorter days, there's less light. Then they know that they need to lose their leaves. And in the spring, the days are longer. In the summer, they're super long. So that means, keep your leaves green. But when they're exposed to this artificial light at night, they don't know when to drop their leaves, and they don't know when to lose their chlorophyll. And you can really see this distinctly here in these images. And trees that are exposed to artificial light at night are also just generally have shorter lifespans than those in natural darkness. And of course, we're wasting a ton of energy and money on this all the while. So $3 to $7 billion is spent every year on light that basically is unneeded and unuseful, which equates to 21 million tons of carbon dioxide being burned by this unnecessary lighting. So we can also tie in light pollution to climate change mitigation as well. And of course, if this impacts all of these other living species, you might assume that it impacts us as well, which it of course does. We have a sleep-wake cycle, which is known as our circadian rhythm, that is mediated by the hormone melatonin. And when we're exposed to sunlight during the day, it tells our body to stop producing this hormone. And when it gets dark at night, our bodies are like, okay, now I can produce this melatonin so you can go to sleep. But when we're exposed to blue light at night, artificial light at night, our body doesn't know the difference between sunlight and light streaming in through your window at night. And so our body still stops producing that melatonin regardless of what type of light we're exposed to. And this has been linked to myriad human health impacts. It's still an evolving body of research. We can't, say definitively that light pollution causes cancer. But all of the arrows seem to be pointing in the direction that light definitely does impact human health. It's been linked to all forms of cancer, depression, diabetes, insomnia, obesity, and many other things. And because of this, the American Medical Association came out with guidance in 2015 recommending that cities use dark sky friendly lighting practices. And of course, there is a huge heritage of dark skies through all of human history, right? The night sky has always been this source of inspiration and wonder for us. Our gods lived up in the night sky, right? We told stories using the night sky. We used the stars to navigate vast landscapes, vast waterscapes. People still use celestial navigation to this day to sail around the world. It inspired our first science of astronomy, right? It inspires art. We all know the painting Van Gogh, Starry Night. And what's sad is that place now, Remy, I don't really know how to pronounce it in French, but is one of the most light polluted places on the planet. And so, we can ask ourselves, would Van Gogh have been inspired to paint his famous painting had he lived today in this light polluted world? And of course, the stars are an integral part of almost every indigenous culture. And its light pollution has been called a driver of cultural genocide because when these indigenous cultures can no longer connect to the night sky in the way that they used to, they're losing a huge piece of their culture because of this. And I just like to touch on this issue as well. Light pollution can also be thought of as a social justice issue. Light is often weaponized against people of color. Terrible light polluting fixtures like this 600,000 lumen floodlight in housing projects in New York City are put up in high crime areas and trespass into people's windows, making it harder for them to sleep and contributing to more of those health impacts that we talked about earlier. I think it also just reinforces the power dynamics that are in place in our society. A lot of these areas that are high crime maybe are only high crime because they're incredibly policed, and you would never see this type of horrible, undesigned lighting in affluent neighborhoods. And studies show that Asian, Latino, and Black communities experience light exposure to light pollution in their neighborhoods at approximately 2 times that of white Americans. And the way to fix this is not to turn off all the lights. The way to fix this is to do lighting responsibly in a way that is fully sustainable. A lot of people get tripped up on the word sustainable. They think of sustainable lighting as just light that has the most luminous efficacy, right? The most amount of light for the least amount of energy, but that's not fully sustainable lighting when we think about all the impacts we just learned about. So you can have lighting, it just needs to be done in a way that considers the impacts on all of the beings around it. And this is an image from Flagstaff, which is the first international dark sky community, our first international dark sky place in the world. We now almost have 200 of them around the world. And you can see here that, you know, they have a thriving downtown. They have a late night scene. You can still see the night sky above. There's still a professional world-class observatory that operates within the city. So this lighting can be done well. It can be done in a way that lets humans live at night while still appreciating the nighttime environment. And the way to implement this type of lighting is to use the 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting. We partnered with the Illuminating Engineering Society, or IES, to come up with these principles. And they're pretty simple, and they can be applied to all types of lighting installations, from your porch light to street lighting to commercial lighting. It's a pretty universal set of principles that can scale to whatever it is you're trying to work on. So the first principle is that, do you need the light in the first place, right? Is it actually useful? Is it a light that's illuminating a hazard? Is it making it easier to see pedestrians? Or is it just there maybe as a legacy fixture that's existed for 100 years? Or is it there to serve as the jewelry of the home, as I've heard it called many a time? So if you don't need a light, don't have one. If you do need a light, cool, let's move on. Targeted, point it down. Pretty easy. Point it to where you need it, to the task at hand. Don't point it into your neighbor's window or up into the night sky. And only have it as bright as you need it. Really bright light at night makes it harder for your eyes to adapt to dark conditions when you walk out of that light. So just use the lowest light that you need, save some money, use some less electricity. And on that same vein, if you can, put it on a motion sensor or a timer to continue to reduce the amount of time that light is on, as well as to save yourself even more money on your electricity bill. And as we talked about before, that blue light, you know, trips up our circadian rhythm. It's also really impactful to all types of wildlife. And it's just like not as pretty, honestly. I don't think, like, blue light reminds me kind of like hospitals and prisons. And warm light is kind of more like romantic, fires, candlelight. So we recommend using warmer lights when possible and trying to reduce the amount of blue light in the environment. And when this is done, there's huge impacts on communities as well. And this isn't just for rural areas. This can be done in large cities. This was done in Tucson, Arizona, which is the home place of IDA. And they recently completed an LED street conversion and reduced the lumen output by 63%, as well as reducing the blue light output by 34%. And what really made the city happy was $2.1 million in annual energy cost savings by this lighting retrofit. Another large city that has recently started working on dark sky conservation efforts is Pittsburgh. They just enacted a lighting ordinance and will be replacing 35,000 streetlights to be dark sky friendly. So it's not necessarily always about being able to see the Milky Way. It's about healthier lighting for the community, and it's about shrinking that circle of light pollution so you don't have to go quite as far to experience a naturally dark sky. And this is what we're here to help you do. So the IDA is one of the leading global organizations working to protect the night from light pollution and promoting responsible use of outdoor lighting. I'll quickly just go over, mainly what you need to get from this is our purpose, which is basically our mission is to protect the night from light pollution, full stop, pretty simple. And as an IDA advocate, we hope that you also adhere to these values that we promote, of passion, credibility, building relationships, consensus, inclusion, nonpartisan, which I think is a big one, and celebration. So I'll just touch kind of on the nonpartisan issue. When I was in college, I was studying environmental studies, and I was really depressed, right? All of the issues were so polarizing. Everything was so right and left, and like everyone hated each other and nobody would talk to each other about these issues until I found light pollution and dark skies. And I felt, I firsthand experienced an environmental issue that was not polarized politically. And I think that that's really, really important that, we all love the stars, we all appreciate the stars, and we can come together on this issue, I think, because the night sky connects us all as humans on spaceship Earth. And I think that's a really important value to promote in this work. I just want to go over briefly our staff at IDA. We are small but mighty. So currently we have 7 people working for us. We're also hiring. We're hiring for a director of development and communications. That's one position. So it's a big job. And so if you or anyone you know would be a good fit, please encourage them to apply. I think you can find the job on ZipRecruiter. It's the IDA Director of Development and Communications. So you can reach out to me as well if you can't find the link. But I'll just go over who we are and who to go to with your questions about specific subjects. So as you met earlier, Ruskin Hartley is our Executive Director. He's kind of big picture guy. So if you have big picture questions about IDA or really great ideas for potential major donors, which we would love to hear, Ruskin is your go-to. Susan Charnello has been at IDA for the longest time out of all of us. I think she's been here for 16 or 17 years. So she knows everything you could ever really need to know about anything. But she is our membership director, and she can answer all of your questions about your IDA membership, as well as donation questions. I'm the director of engagement, so I work with all of our dark sky advocates around the world. Anna Marie Schecker is our development associate, and she also does our brochures. So if you have questions about getting brochures sent to you, Anna Marie is your go-to. Pete Strasser, probably the person who's worked here the second longest amount of time. He's also been here for quite a while. He is our technical director, and he manages our Fixture Seal of Approval program, which is a program that certifies dark sky friendly lighting around the world. We have a searchable database of this dark sky friendly lighting. If you're looking to find lighting for a specific installation, you can search by, usage type. If you need, stairway lighting, or if you need residential lighting or commercial lighting, it's all organized on our Fixture Seal of Approval database. And if you have any questions kind of about technical lighting or technical lighting requirements, Pete knows way more than any of us on staff. So reach out to him. Lauren Scorsafava is our communications associate and does all of our social media and works on the Nightscape publication, as well as the general member newsletter. So if you have questions about social media or blog posts or content, anything like that, Lauren is your girl. And Ashley Wilson, finally, is our Director of Conservation, and she manages the entire International Dark Sky Places program. So if you have questions about getting certified, becoming an International Dark Sky Place, park, reserve, community, urban night sky place, sanctuary, Ashley will be your go-to. And all of our emails are our first name darksky.org. So really easy to get a hold of. And you can also contact all of us on Slack, which we'll get to in a second. So let's go over the main programs that we have at IDA. As I mentioned, our International Dark Sky Places program, we have 5 different certifications: dark sky communities, international dark sky parks, reserves, sanctuaries, and urban night sky places. So there's something for a little bit of something for everyone. It's not just for rural areas. We really want to see more work happening in urban places, in cities, as well as continuing to conserve the dark sky places that exist around the world. So please get involved with that. It's a great way as an advocate to kind of put everything together into action. If all of our places, the certification requires a certain amount of education and outreach. So programs for the local community outreach, demonstration projects, right? You have to retrofit lighting. You have to show us that you're changing your lighting to be dark sky friendly. You have to monitor your dark skies. You have to know what the quality of the night sky is and how it's changing. And you have to demonstrate broad community support as well. Our lighting program, as I mentioned, is run by Pete. And we have that online database of lighting that is searchable to help you find dark sky friendly lighting. For policy, we have multiple model policies. If you're working on getting something enacted in your community, it's a great way to ensure that your community doesn't get more light polluted into the future, and maybe make some changes to retrofit some lighting, walk the talk if you would. So, lighting is controlled by lighting ordinances in communities. And if you want your community's lighting to be dark sky friendly, getting a lighting ordinance passed is a huge, kind of a monumental task, but it's a really great way to ensure that lighting will be dark sky friendly. And if it's not, you have a foot to stand on to get it changed. And the advocacy program is all of you. This is where you all come in. It's people around the world coming together, supporting each other, and connecting with IDA to create changes in their own community. So as you saw, we are a very small staff. We have a really limited amount of manpower, and we really rely on all of you to be our feet and our hands out in the world doing this work and making these changes, which is, again, why we're so grateful for all of you to be doing this, because we couldn't do it without you. We really have not very many people for our global scale of this issue. And so we work to empower each and every one of you to feel educated and confident and prepared and supported to do this work in your own community. And we can help you with a couple of resources. If you're in the US and an IDA member, we can ship brochures to you for free to, hand out in certain areas or display in certain areas. There's also like postcards with lighting solutions that we have. We have PowerPoints. There's a PowerPoint available on our website. That's just kind of a general light pollution talk PowerPoint. You can adapt to your own community and needs. We have so many videos of incredible presentations and talks and workshops on pretty much every light pollution subject you can imagine on our YouTube channel. And we also have a box folder full of advocate resources. And I will send you a link to this after the call today. I'll also send a link to a spreadsheet that I worked on because the box folder was really not that well organized. And so I organized it into different categories that I feel like might be a little more helpful to you all. But there's resources on monitoring, there's resources on building a team, there's resources on dark sky place applications, there's resources for policy, for all of the above. And we hope that they're helpful to you. And also be sure to check out our blog if you want to stay up to date with what's going on. We regularly post to our blog, which can be found on our website and Slack. So this is the fun part. I'll also send all of you an invitation to join Slack after this. Slack is an online platform to connect people and create a sense of community. So it really helps if you download the desktop app or the phone app. I think it's a little bit easier than using it on a web browser, but you can use it on a web browser. And this is a place where you can meet and see all the advocates from around the world and see what everybody's up to. It's also a really great place to just DM any of us on staff. I'll probably get back quicker to you if you shoot me a message on Slack than if I get an email. I don't know why it's just easier to like DM people than it is to write a nice formal email to someone. And you can also message any other advocate on Slack as well. So it's a great place to chat with other people, to introduce yourself. There's an introduce yourself channel. Really appreciate it if all of you after this joined and just introduce yourself to the community, who you are, where you're from, what you're working on, what you're up to, what your challenges are. It's a really supportive community, and we look forward to having you join us there. And another fun thing we do as advocates is monthly meetings. We meet every month on a different topic about light pollution. This month, the next one is actually on Thursday, and we'll be talking about satellite mega constellations and the impact on the quality of dark skies as well. So these are my favorite part of my job, actually, because you just get to see people from all over the world, in Malaysia, in Tasmania, in Aruba. They're just like cool dark sky advocates from every corner of the globe. And it's just really fun to see everyone's faces and connect with people from around the world. So I encourage all of you to join these monthly meetings as well. And I always find them informative and learn something new. And if you're interested in kind of going a step further, we also have IDA delegates and chapters. So the difference between an advocate and a delegate and a chapter is basically our delegates and chapters are pins on the map. They are local points of contact. They've agreed to have their information shared when people reach out. They want people to know that they are there and they can be contacted about light pollution in their community. So the delegate application is currently open. One of the requirements is that you be a member of the advocate program for 3 months before applying to be a delegate, or come with a recommendation from a current advocate. It's just a simple application process. We just want to know who you are, what you're doing, and what your goals are for dark sky conservation. And I would really encourage all of you to apply. It's super, super helpful for us to have delegates out there who can be local points of contact, who we can go to when we hear something from a community. We want to be able to turn them to somebody local, because somebody local tends to have a lot more sway usually than some random person from a small office in Tucson, depending on, where things are coming in from. And so delegate, that's an individual person, right? You would apply as an individual. And our chapters are groups of people, and you have to have a minimum of 5 people to start an IDA chapter. And right now the application process is currently closed, but will be opening early next year, which is coming right up. So if you are a team builder, if you love being in a group and having supportive people around you to help you with this work, I would also highly encourage you to apply to start a chapter. And now that you're part of the Advocate Network, we will be sending that information out to that listserv, which you guys will all be a part of, as soon as applications open. And of course, please follow us on social media. We have all of the above: Facebook, Insta, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. It's a great way to support us really easily and also stay up to date with what we're up to. And mark your calendars, because International Dark Sky Week 2022 is coming up April 22nd to the 30th. We'll be basically doing what we did last year, which is hosting an online platform to elevate local events from around the world. So even if your event isn't virtual, we'd love to post it on our website. We'd love to help people know about your event. Maybe they want to travel to come see it, to attend. Maybe it's virtual so they can attend from anywhere. But we really just want to highlight and elevate what you all are doing around the world. So please think of something to do during Dark Sky Week. Come up with a good plan. Host a dark sky walk in your community. Host a nocturnal animal safari. Work with your local astronomy club. Go on a nocturnal birding tour. There was this cool event I went to in Salt Lake. It was the Migration Moon Watch, where there were people with telescopes out at the full moon during the peak migration, and you could see the silhouette of the birds nocturnally migrating against the full moon. And it was just amazing. So there's so many options for types of events that you can have to educate your community and build support for dark sky conservation. So start thinking now. And I'll just end here with this quote from Ruskin, again, our executive director, because I really think it speaks to this environmental issue and shows its uniqueness in terms of the other environmental issues as well. Like, again, my depression in college because of the severity of all of our environmental problems was because it's really, really hard to solve them, right? Global climate change, you can't just immediately get carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, right? Air pollution, water pollution, oil spills, you can't just immediately get that type of pollution out of the environment, but light is different. Light is a type of pollution that we can immediately resolve. It is a type of pollution that we can solve at the speed of light. And so I think it's a really hopeful environmental issue. And again, I think it's something that can bring us all together as humans to remember our shared heritage and connect us to something much greater than ourselves and all our small worlds. So thank you so much for listening to this and for being here tonight. There's my email, bettymaya@darksky.org, and below is my Instagram if you want to follow me for any more night sky photos. That's usually what I'll be doing on the weekends. You can find me out under dark skies with the camera. And I guess if anyone has any questions, now we can open up for questions. You can just yell them out if you have them, or you can pop them in the chat. We're good? You guys, you got it all? Okay, well, easy. I'll go to dinner early then. Again, I guess just want to extend a huge thank you and gratitude to all of you for being here. It's really lovely to meet you all. It's nice to see your faces, those of you who have your camera on. I hope, hi Jeannie, thanks for turning yours on. Really good to see you. And I really look forward to working with all of you in the future. I will blast out a quick email right after this meeting with the Slack invitation, with the advocate resources link, and with the link to join or register for the monthly meeting, which is on Thursday. If you can't make it to that, also don't worry about it, because we always do send out a recording of those meetings as well. So if you can't make the time, there's 2 separate times, just like there was for this training, to enable people from around the world to join at a time that's convenient to them. So you only need to register for one if you want to attend, because it'll just be a repeat of the same meeting, which is really helpful to me because the information then sinks in a lot more the second time. So if you want to come to both of them, there are like a couple advocates who come to both of them, and it warms my heart. But anyway, yeah, I guess I will thank you all again for being here. Look for an email for me, and please reach out with any questions. Bye, everyone.